All right, it is 7 p.m. I'll call to order the regular Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting of the City of Richfield of February 18th, 2025. We will start with the open forum. If there's anyone here to speak at the open forum, seeing no hesitation or move here, you can also refer to the HRA agenda and minutes webpage for additional ways to submit comments. Okay, so that takes us then to the approval of the minutes of the regular Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting of January 21st, 2025. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, changes, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. Taking us to item number 1, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any changes at all? Seeing none, all those in favor to approve the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda has been approved. That takes us to item number 2, the consent calendar. Executive Director Palman.
Thank you, Chair Reese-Daniels, members of the board. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the HRA in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. However, any HRA commissioner may request that an item be removed from the consent calendar and placed on the regular agenda for HRA discussion and action. Item A on your consent calendar tonight is consideration of the approval of a second amendment to the preliminary development agreement with Penn Stations LLLP for the development of 40 units of affordable housing at 6501 and 6525 Penn Avenue South. Item B is consideration of a resolution authorizing the acceptance of environmental remediation funding through the Minnesota Brownfields Program by J.O. Companies, LLC for 6501 and 6525 Penn Avenue South. And I will mention the HRA did receive a revised resolution for that item. The only change is the name of the funding group, or the name of the grant program, correct? It was the name of the grant program, and Hennepin County requested that we make that change in the preliminary agreement. I submit these items for your approval. Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent calendar has been approved. Thank you. Item number 4, I'll pass it back to Executive Director Palman.
Thank you, and I will ask Assistant Director Julie Urban to present the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Reese-Daniels, members of the HRA. Some of this will sound familiar. We've heard it before. I'll try to keep it a little bit briefer than some of the past meetings. But as you know, Hempel Real Estate is proposing to purchase 3 affordable Richfield apartment complexes, New Orleans Court, Richland Court, and Winton House, containing a total of 236 units. In order to retain the affordability of the properties and to undertake moderate rehabilitation activities, the developer is seeking financial assistance from the Housing and Redevelopment Authority in exchange for limiting rents and capping resident income levels, which would enable the properties to qualify for 4D tax status. Under the proposed contract for private redevelopment, the HRA would provide the developer with a $1.57 million 15-year deferred loan funded from the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The developer would also apply for $200,000 from the Economic Development Authority's Apartment Remodeling Loan Program toward those remodeling activities. A declaration of restrictive covenants would be filed against the properties, requiring that rent and income limits in all 1- and 2-bedroom units be restricted to 60% of the area median income, and in all 3-bedroom units at 70% of the AMI. The declaration would also require the properties to accept Section 8, Kids at Home, and other forms of rental assistance operated by the HRA, to agree to meetings between property management and city staff, and to regularly seek feedback from residents. Filing the declaration will qualify the properties for 4D tax status, thereby reducing the taxes paid by the properties. The City Council approved the use of the 4D tax status on January 28th of this year. And I would like to point out that they are still in the process of finalizing their principal lender. The HRA will end up being in 3rd position behind the principal lender and the NOAA Impact Fund. And the documents that you see attached to your packet were labeled draft because I can guarantee that the lenders will all have Suggestions for changes. If those changes are minor, the executive director and the HRA attorney will approve those changes. If they're a little more substantive, we will likely bring these back to you in March. One thing that we do anticipate may likely happen is we may have to divide the loan into 3, one for each property. So those are some details that happen with closings closer to the end, and that's just the timing of things. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, that concludes my report.
Anybody have any questions? Just to clarify, has anything else changed other than the city council has approved the 4D tax status since our last conversation, or is everything primarily the same?
So we did add some language at a request just to encourage that the developer would seek feedback from residents on an ongoing basis, and so we did added that. I also, because we are anticipating a new state rent assistance program called Bring It Home Minnesota, so rather than being very specific about our programs, I added some more general language because I would hope that they might also be open to accepting folks who would receive this new rent assistance program, which the RFP just came out today, actually, so we're in the process of developing that program. And so I just wanted to anticipate that as well. And then since that time, they also got back some of their preliminary numbers on rehab work, and it is not less, it's quite a bit more than anticipated. We don't expect to provide more money, but they do ask for that full amount.
Okay, thank you. Did you, yes?
I was just going to say I was really pleased to see those changes. I think it's good to have that flexibility on the state rental program, but also to get the feedback from the tenants so that they can have some agency in their where they're living and have a voice.
All right, if there's no other question, is there a motion? Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to adopt a resolution approving the execution and delivery of a contract for private redevelopment and declaration of restrictive covenants with Hempel Real Estate doing business as Hempel Holdings LLC or a subsidiary thereof.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, concerns? Yes, go ahead.
I have had a hard time getting to yes on this resolution, but I've gotten there. And the reason I had a hard time is I talked before about the increase in property taxes that some people that may occur. And that troubled me quite a bit. But I've gotten to yes for 2 reasons, 2 primary reasons, I think. I watched the city council meeting, and Mayor Supple, you were very eloquent talking about trade-offs, and that this is a trade-off worth making. And I've come around to that opinion, that this is definitely a trade-off that we ought to make. And also that 477 people, almost 500 people, would be affected if we didn't do this. And it breaks my heart to think about how they would have to go find similar housing and how difficult that would be. And some of the stories were heard about the concierge apartments really moved me. So I'm a yes on this. I support it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yeah, I appreciate all the discussion around this. I think we don't take these things lightly, and I appreciate how staff interacts with conversations and questions, and how the city council has, and the HRA, and if this moves forward with the EDA as well. And so, so I wanted to make sure we were clear about the changes from last time as well, because it isn't always an ongoing conversation. So thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, go ahead.
I did have one question. So the next steps would be after the due diligence period, and we do this, would then Hempel would close on it, or what are the next steps?
Their hope is to close by the end of March. There is a deadline for the 4D tax status of March 31st, so that is their goal. There's a lot to accomplish between now and then, but that's their business that they're in, right? There's a lot of details that have to be worked out to get to closing. We wanted to get this agreement before, even though we knew the documents weren't quite where we wanted them to be, just because they need to have that decision, because they have to go hard with their earnest money in early March. And so, they are continuing to move forward, finishing their due diligence. They'll have to put down real money. And then, working out details with lenders and then to closing.
Okay, and then after closing, our ordinance would kick in about the notice to tenants and those types of things?
Yep, there's a 3-month tenant protection period. They will have to give notice to tenants and agree not to raise rents or change terms of people living there for that 3-month period. It's my understanding from just talking to them in their regular practice, they don't like to change a lot of those things for the first year. They really want to get to know what's going on in their properties. So that's sort of their typical way to operate.
Thank you.
All right, there is a motion, and it has been seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That means the motion has been approved. Thank you. Item number 5, HRA discussion items. Are there any HRA discussion items? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6, Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. I do not have a report tonight.
All righty. Item number 7, claims. Is there a motion to approve claims?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, concerns? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Claims have been approved, and that takes us to adjournment. Thank you, everyone. Roll right into the EDA if nobody needs a break after 7 minutes. Okay. Just checking. 11 minutes. Right. All right, so then we'll call to order the, hang on, let me get to the top. Economic Development Authority meeting of the City of Richfield of February 18th, 2025. We'll start with the open forum. If there's anyone here for the open forum. You can also refer to the EDA agenda and minutes webpage for additional ways to submit comments. So seeing that there is no one here, we'll move right on to approval of the minutes of the regular Economic Development Authority from all the way back in December 16th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any changes, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes have been approved. Taking us to item number 1, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any changes made to the agenda? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The agenda has been approved. This takes us to item number 2, Executive Director Palman.
Thank you. And I will ask Assistant Director Urban to present this staff report as well.
Thank you, Chair Vries-Daniels, President Vries-Daniels, members of the EDA. Hampel Real Estate is acquiring 3 Richfield apartment communities, New Orleans Court, Richland Court, and Winton House, and they are planning to preserve the affordability and to undertake moderate rehabilitation. The developer requested $1.77 million in financial assistance from the HRA to assist in the purchase and preservation. The HRA approved a contract for private redevelopment with the redeveloper, authorizing $1.57 million from the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund and $200,000 in apartment remodeling loans, contingent upon this action by the EDA. The guidelines for the EDA apartment remodeling program typically limit the number of apartment loans to 1 per property. All 3 of the properties being acquired by the developer have received rehabilitation loans in the past, so the EDA is being asked to authorize additional loans, 1 per property. The loans will be funded primarily through repayments of the past loans by the current owner upon the sale of the properties. An exception to the program guidelines is warranted in this case because of the benefit to the residents in the community with the preservation and rehabilitation of the affordable rental housing units, and also because funds are able to be recycled upon the sale of the properties. The proposed improvements will need to meet all remaining program guidelines. With that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, go ahead.
So you said earlier during the HRA meeting that they probably will use the full 200,000, is that accurate?
Yes, they certainly will, yeah.
Okay, so, and they'll be used for just fixing up safety and those types of things?
Yep, we'll see what there's a long list that was identified through the initial inspections, roofs and furnaces and windows, and we'll certainly talk about what's the simplest way to deal with this. This was a way, because we're getting $190-some thousand back in repayments, it seemed like a great way to reduce the demand on the trust fund, to use those repayments, and so we'll talk with them about what's the simplest way to make that work. They could do one per property, or I suppose they could split it between two if that was easier.
Okay, thank you, that was helpful, because I mean, that was what the fund was designed for to begin with, so. it would go into
Exactly.
the exact purpose.
Exactly, yep.
Am I reading this correct, that because it's being sold, the repayment is due of 191K, so really the initial investment that we made is, like you said, almost fully being repaid because it is being sold when that's happening? Okay.
Exactly. New Orleans Court has a loan that's actually 14 years with a 15-year maturity, but I'm not feeling terribly bad because we'll get to recycle those funds. And they were actually originally Metropolitan Council funds, and so it's important that we reuse it at a similar purpose. The other two buildings, I believe the loans are about 8 years old. In Winton House paid for, I think, replaced some flooring and some paint and did some parking lot work, and then Richland Court did some roof work. So those were some things that, these buildings need a lot of work, right, from there, that, given their ages. So it's exciting that we have somebody who's willing to invest into the physical properties.
That's great, thank you. Anybody else? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to adopt a resolution authorizing Hempel Holdings LLC to apply for one additional apartment remodeling loan per property for New Orleans Court, Richland Court, and Winton House, up to a total amount of $200,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, concerns, additional? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the amendment has been approved. Motion, there you go. Item number 3, EDA discussion items. Are there any EDA discussion items? Seeing none. Item number 4, executive director's reports.
I do not have any report tonight. Thank you.
Alrighty. That takes us to claims. Is there a motion to approve claims?
I'll make a motion to approve claims.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Claims have been approved. That takes us to adjournment. Thank you, everyone.